So what is going on, people, and welcome to a new video on the channel. Something slightly different today. As you can see, no gameplay involved. The camera is a little bit better. I'm recording on my phone. Basically, I want to do some sort of discussion topics going forward a little bit more, just change up the content a little bit. As some of you may or may not know, I am a sports journalism student. As you can see, I'm in my new house, new surroundings once again. But yeah, I just wanted to do something a little bit different, maybe talk about some sport topics going forward, just vary up the content a little bit. And today I'm going to be doing a championship predictions. Of course, championship is a league that means something to me, being a Reading fan. That is where my team play. But I will be doing Premier League predictions as well. That will be coming ideally tomorrow as this video comes out. The opening game of the championship is tonight. I think it's Watford against Middlesbrough. That could be going on right now or maybe a little bit later, but I'm aiming to get this out today. So anyway, I am going to be doing, as I said, a championship prediction. So without further ado, let's get on with it. So I'm going to go from bottom to top. And in 24th place, I am going to go with Wycombe Wanderers. Now, they did a fantastic job getting promoted last season, obviously beat Oxford in the playoff final. Gareth Ainsworth has done a fantastic job since being there, really overachieved, and finally they achieved promotion last season. Now, again, they were around the top of the table for a long time, but, in terms of business, nothing exciting. I mean, they've brought in probably what they could. They've strengthened where they can. But I just think, having not been at this level for a long time, I think that it's just, it's going to be one of those seasons where they go straight back down, unfortunately. So in 23rd place, I have got Rotherham United, another one of the promoted sides. Again, Rotherham have sort of been doing this for a few years now, going up, going down, going up, going down. But yeah, they achieved automatic promotion last season, finishing second. And, speaking about business, they've done some good business. They brought in Angus MacDonald, of course, from Hull. I think is a decent centre-back. Obviously, he had problems out. I think he had cancer, I do believe. I think that's the right person. I could have made a horrible accusation, but I think that is him. So yeah, Angus MacDonald is a good centre-back. They've also brought in Wes Harding from Birmingham. I watched a bit of Birmingham last year, and Harding was a decent player. Jamal Blackman as well, on loan from Chelsea, a solid keeper. But I just think, again, that Rotherham's fortunes are going to continue. I just don't think they're quite strong enough to compete in the Championship, and so I have them finishing in 23rd. Now, in 22nd place, this one is interesting because there's one team this season that obviously been given a points deduction, and that is Sheffield Wednesday. I'm going to put them in 22nd. There's been a hell of a lot going on at Sheffield Wednesday over the past few months during lockdown. Of course, they were found guilty of breaching EFL rules, so given the point deduction. And there's been a lot of player, sort of turnaround, if you like. A lot of players have left. The likes of Forestieri has gone. Stephen Fletcher has been released. Just looking at the list as well. Sam Hutchinson, tough tackling midfielder, has gone. Kieran Lee as well, who's been there for a long time. So a lot of players leaving. In terms of players coming in, a couple of decent players. I think, they've got Kachunga from Huddersfield, who is, on his day can be, near enough unplayable. Izzy Brown from Chelsea as well. But I just think last season I wasn't particularly, wasn't impressed with Gary Monk there. Of course, he was, rumoured to be close to losing his job for a long time. And I just think, given their points deduction, I don't think they're strong enough to come back from that. So Sheffield United are going to make up the last relegation spot for me. In 21st place, so just narrowly avoiding relegation, I am going to go for Luton Town. They managed to narrowly avoid relegation last year, and I think they will just about manage to do it again. I think that experience last year will help them. Again, I don't think they're strong. Their squad is as strong as maybe it could be to compete at achieve a higher finish, if you like. I know they've got James Bree in again. I think he was there on loan last season from Villa. I think he's signed permanently now. And yeah, not too much business. A few players in, a few players out. Nothing to shout about. But yeah, I just think that experience from last year, and having is it Graham Jones, the manager? I think he did a really good job there when he came back in. So I think Luton will survive, but it could be narrowly. So in 20th place, then I've got the final promoted club. I've got Coventry City. Now, this one I've debated over for a while, because when I initially did this, I forecasted them finishing a lot higher, and actually, I saw Coventry play last season. I saw them play in the FA Cup replay at Birmingham, they gave a really good account of themselves. They were superb, probably the better team, and kind of harsh not to go out. Harsh to go out. Sorry, I think Mark Robins is a good manager. He's done a really good job there. Obviously, they won League One last year, but I just think the fact they haven't strengthened that much. They've brought in O'Hare permanently. He was a really good player for them last season on loan. They brought in Tyler Walker from Forest. I just think that they haven't quite strengthened enough to really kick on. I think they will survive. I think because of the way they play football and the way Robins has got them set up, I think they'll be just fine. But yeah, I don't think they'll kick on. They won't amount to much. They might finish a couple places higher, but I can't see it being too much higher than that. In 19th place, and it pains me to say it as it is my team, I am going to put Reading in 19th place. Now, as a Reading fan, you will know that in the last few weeks there has been a lot going on at the club. Of course, we replaced our manager. Mark Bowen was there. I think he did a really good job last season. We finished 14th. But for whatever reason, he's been replaced by the board by a relative unknown in Veljko Paunovic. And yeah, mixed reviews from his time in management. He won, I think, the under-20 World Cup or Euros with Serbia, which is a phenomenal achievement in itself. But in terms of actual professional, proper first-team football, his last job, I think, was in the MLS at Chicago Fire, and he got pretty mixed reviews there. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And then changes of boardroom level as well. In terms of business, we've been promised a bit of business, but only 2 signings coming in. Ovi Ajaria signing on a permanent deal after spending 18 months on loan from Liverpool. I think that's really good that we've signed him permanently. Ovi is, on his day, can change a game just like that. So, yeah, really exciting to get him in. Josh Laurent as well from Shrewsbury. I know, from what I understand, he was pretty much Shrewsbury's key player. So the fact we've got him in on a free, I think is good. 25 years old. I'm not too sure how he plays, so it'd be interesting to see, but I think another option in the centre midfield is a good idea, with the likes of Charlie Adam going and Pele leaving from his loan as well. But yeah, Reading a team in a lot of financial trouble as well. We've got a lot of players. We've let a lot of players go. Danny Loader, promising player, he didn't sign a new contract. He's gone to Porto. Left backs, we released Tyler Blackett and Jordan Obita. Blackett, of course, has gone to Forest. We sold Mo Barrow, who was out on loan last season, but he's a game changer. A lot of first team players have gone as well, just to trim the wage bill. And I think on paper we've still got a very strong squad, which is why I think we'll survive. But I think it will be another season of struggle. I don't think it'll be as comfortable as it last year, perhaps. So in 18th position, then I've got Huddersfield Town. Now I know they had a bit of a torrid time last year. Obviously, the Cowley brothers were in. And as soon as they achieved survival, they got rid of them. They've got in Carlos Corberán, I believe is his name. He was assistant to Bielsa at Leeds last year. So I think if he can, try and get Huddersfield playing as close to Bielsa ball as possible, then they could have a really good season. But again, a lot of change has gone. Steve Mounier has gone, who's a big player up top. Obviously, we mentioned Kachunga. He's gone to Sheffield Wednesday. They've kept a lot of their squad together, which is good, but the squad wasn't great. I mean, they've brought some players in. Danny Ward from Cardiff, can be an option. Pereira on loan from United, I think, is a decent signing. But again, there's not much else going on other than that. So, with Corberán, I think I may be wrong, but as far as I'm aware, it's his first proper management. I believe he's just been assistant elsewhere. I could well be wrong. But yeah, I just think they haven't really strengthened too much for anything to shout about. It all depends on the manager, but it could be a risk if it is his first job in management. I think they'll be safe. I don't think it will be as tightly contested at the bottom this year as it was last year. But yeah, I think Huddersfield about 18th for me. Okay, in 17th place, I've got Birmingham City. I've mentioned them a couple of times. I saw them play probably the most in terms of a journalistic point of view last season. I went to a few of their games to cover them, and I quite enjoyed Birmingham. They weren't the greatest side. I think I really like Pep Clotet. I thought he was a good manager. He was a really nice guy as well. But he's obviously gone, and they've got in Karanka. Now, Karanka, when he was at Middlesbrough, obviously did a really good job, got them promoted. I believe has he had a job since then? I feel like he has, but I might be wrong. But yeah, they've got Karanka in. He knows what he's doing, and I think that will steer them clear of any relegation trouble. I think he will shore them up defensively. A lot of player turnaround. Obviously, they've lost Jude Bellingham, their rising star, and when I saw Jude Bellingham last year, I thought he was sensational. For a 16-year-old to play the way he did was absolutely superb. He played like a man 10 years older than he did. Nothing phased him. He was so comfortable on the ball. And in fact, they've got about 25 million for him, I think, roughly. It's really good business for them. But yeah, he will certainly be missed. But they've brought in some good options. Jonathan Lecco from West Brom. He's young, exciting player. George Friend from Middlesbrough, I think, is a key bit of experience getting on now. But Karanka knows him from his days. I think Friend is a solid option as well. They've brought in the likes of John Terrell from Hull, who, again, on his day can be a really good player. Adam Clayton as well from Middlesbrough. Karanka will know him, solid player. Neil Etheridge from Cardiff, I think, is a massive signing for them in terms of, really sure keeper. So I think they'll be alright. I think they'll be more defensively solid. It's just going forward for them. I'm not too sure how it will go for them, but we'll wait and see. But I think they will be safe, and I will say 17th. So in 16th place then, I have got Barnsley. I saw Barnsley play last year against Birmingham, funnily enough. And I was actually quite impressed by them, considering the perilous position they were in. They managed to save themselves. And Gerhard Struber has actually come in and done a really good job. I think they will kick on a lot from last season. Can't see them pulling up any trees, but I think 16th place, sounds about right. They'll give a good account of themselves. They'll probably lose more games than they'll win. But he certainly got them, playing the right way. And he's a very scary man. I will say that. I got that in his press conference. He's a man you would not want to cross. They haven't brought in too many players. I know they brought in a guy released from Liverpool. I think it's Christy Davis. I don't really know a lot about him. I know they've brought in a couple of players from the continent as well, from the likes of Poland and maybe Austria. So I'm guessing it's players that Struber's either worked with before or knows a bit about. I worry for them a little bit in terms of outgoings. They sold Jacob Brown, who's one of their best attacking players last season. He's joined Stoke. Malik Wilkes as well. He was on loan at Hull last year. I think he could have done a job for them again this year, but he's not going to be. Is he with them? No, I feel like Wilkes is. Oh, Wilkes might return. I feel like he's gone back out on loan, but who knows? If he's there, he will certainly help. But yeah, I think Struber will improve them. I think they will be solid this year, and I'm going to go for 16th. So in 15th place, then I have got QPR, Queen's Park Rangers. Again, they're becoming that team. They're just sort of like, becoming a bit of a mid-table team. I think they do have the potential to, challenge further. I believe Mark Warburton is still in charge there. He's a decent manager. Obviously had a good time at Brentford before things changed around. I think the thing with QPR, though, is the fact, they've lost Eze, which is a massive loss for them. Got good money for him. They need to reinvest it, really. But obviously he was their best player by far and away last year. Grant Hall as well, I feel, was like a big centre-back for them. Tony Leisner as well has gone, so that was a big centre-back partnership that has gone missing for them. But in terms of incomings, they've got in like Luke Amos on a permanent from Spurs. Rob Dickey as well, highly coveted centre-back who was at Oxford last year. He's come in, so I think they've done okay to replace one of the centre-backs. Maybe could do with bringing in another one as well. They've got Tom Carroll as well, who I think is a decent player in central midfield. But like Barnsley, they're not really going to be pulling up any trees. But yeah, just solid mid-table for QPR, I think. In 14th place, now I antagonised about this one for a while, but I'm not too sure. I've gone for Middlesbrough in 14th. Now I know Warnock being there, he did a good job there last season. Giving him a full season, I think could be, really good for them. But again, they just, a lot of this is down to business for me, where I feel like teams have maybe gone above and beyond to really sort of like, okay, this is us. We're gonna push on now. I mean, they brought in Grant Hall, as we just mentioned, from QPR, solid centre back. They brought in Bettinelli from Fulham as well, which he's a solid keeper at this level. But again, players, they've released a lot of ageing players. To be fair, we mentioned George Friend and Clayton have both gone to Birmingham. The likes of, I think, who else have they released? Danny Ayala, I think, has gone. He was a solid centre-back option. Ryan Shotton as well, another centre-back, but getting on as well. Rudy Gestede as well has gone. So yeah, some big first team players there that Warnock has gotten rid of, but he's obviously confident in the younger players, confident in what he has there. I don't know whether Warnock's still got it. You know, he might be becoming the sort of Sam Allardyce of the Championship, if you like. But again, I think, you know, they'll much improve on last season, but again, I just think mid-table really for Middlesbrough at this point. In 13th position, I've got Bristol City. Now, last season was an unusual one for Bristol City. They've been near the playoffs, in and around the playoffs for so many years now with Lee Johnson, but it all just went horribly wrong for him. And he obviously got the boot. Now, in charge is Dean Holden, who I believe was Lee Johnson's assistant. I think this is his first proper manager's job, so it'll be interesting to see a lot of turnaround as well at City. They've brought in Chris Martin from Derby on a free, as well as Chris Brunt, two experienced players there. Alfie Mawson is a massive signing on loan. I think I'm surprised that Fulham have let him go. As well as Stephen Sussignon, actually, they signed him, I know, because Reading were after him as well. But in terms of players, you know, players that have left there, I think there were sort of players that weren't really getting near the first team. I could be wrong. I think Corey Smith, arguably, is probably one of their bigger losses. He's gone to Swansea. I know Sammy Smodics has gone to Peterborough in recent days as well. Matty Taylor, the striker, has left, but I don't think they were players that were really challenging the first team. I think it could be all down to Dean Holden, to be honest. You know, if he tries to replicate Lee Johnson, it could go well for him, but as we've seen with Lee Johnson, it also went wrong. So I'm not too sure. I think, you know, I'm going to play it safe with Bristol City. I'm going to say mid-table. I think if Holden gets a year under his belt and does all right for them, then maybe they can kick on, because they have still got a strong squad. They've got some really good players there, but it's just Holden needs to give them their belief back, and whether they'll buy into his, you know, him being there, him being the top dog, remains to be seen. So Bristol City in the 13th position for me. Okay, so we move into the top half of the table, and in 12th position I am going to go for Blackburn. Blackburn, I think, have been a steadily improving team over the years, and you know, they've got Tony Mowbray in charge, who I think is a decent gaffer. You know, he's obviously got them drilled in how he wants to play, and yeah, there's not been too much movement in or out, which could be, you know, could be harmful to them, but also could be a good thing. You never know. Don't want to upset the balance of the squad, but then haven't really strengthened. I'm not too aware of what business Blackburn have done, in truthful. I don't know. I don't think they've brought in too many players. I know Danny Graham has left. I mean, he's getting up there in years now, but he's gone back to Sunderland. So yeah, I think, you know, obviously the transfer window, there's still, you know, just under a month to go. I was just checking the date there. Yeah, it closes just after October, the start of October. So there's still plenty of time for them to do something. You know, they're good enough, and Mowbray's a good enough manager to give them a solid season. So they are in 12th position for me. In 11th position, I have got Preston North End. Now, I think Alex Neil's done a really good job there. Obviously, there was a lot of speculation about him leaving last season, going to Stoke. But he stayed. And yeah, I just feel like Preston, again, they're sort of, you know, I don't think they did as well last season. I could well be wrong, but I just think they're that sort of team that aren't really, I don't feel like they're going to mount a serious charge on the playoffs. They might be within touch, but sort of between, you know, 7th and 10th, 11th is, I think, their remit, and unless they sort of, you know, say invest heavily. You know, a lot of clubs can't really do that at this level, but you know, strengthen wisely. I don't think they have done, really. I don't really, again, know much business that they've done, but they have got some decent players. So, you know, going on that basis, I think they'll be a solid team, but they won't really mount a serious charge on the playoffs. So I'm going for 11th. So in 10th position, I have got Stoke City. I just mentioned them. Of course, they've got Michael O'Neill in charge there now. I think he's a really good manager. Obviously, did really well with Northern Ireland. And by their standards, they had an absolute stinker last season. And managed to finish 15th after O'Neill came in, but the start of the season was torrid, and they are so much better than that. Again, I don't think they're quite there to mount a proper charge on the playoffs, similar to Preston, but they have done well. They've strengthened well. You know, what we mentioned earlier, Jacob Brown's been brought in from Barnsley. James Chester, I think, is a massive signing for them at the back. A really good defender, and I think will do bits. He's getting up there a bit in age now, but again, that experience, that leadership will be invaluable. They've also brought in Stephen Fletcher after he was released from Sheffield Wednesday, which I think is another good option as well. John Obi Mikel, of course, has joined there as well. So O'Neill obviously looking for experience, which I think is good. In terms of players, I don't think they've let many players go as far as I know. So yeah, I think they'll do much better than last season. I don't think they're quite there yet to mount a charge on the playoffs, but we will definitely see improvements from Stoke. So in 9th position, I have got Derby County, my local club to me as it is now. And yeah, the second half of last season, when Rooney came in, they were superb. Mounted, quite the run. Almost made the playoffs, missed out in the end. But I think Rooney being there for another year. I think Koku now, there was a lot of players, a lot of people wanted him to go. Obviously, living in Derby, I know a few Derby fans, and not many of them were convinced. But he's been given time. Obviously, he's turned it around. How much of that is down to Rooney, remains to be seen. But I think Koku is a good manager. Obviously, did a really good job in Holland. So yeah, I think he will do well. Obviously, recently they've lost two, promising players in Max Lowe and Jayden Bogle, both going to Sheffield United. But I think they've just got rid of a lot of the deadwood. Players have gone. The likes of Mason Bennett. Not necessarily deadwood, but he wasn't really getting a game. He went out on loan to Millwall last season. He's joined there permanently. Scott Malone's gone there on loan as well. Obviously, we mentioned Chris Martin. So I think, they're just trimming the squad a little bit, going with a lot of the young players. I watched Derby's youth team play last season in the Youth Champions League against Dortmund. And they played really well. The likes of Louis Sibley in there, Max Bird. I think if Koku relies a lot on the youngsters, then it could do well. They haven't done too much business, I believe, in terms of coming in. They signed Nathan Byrne recently, I know that much, so they've covered the right-back position. Obviously, Andre Wisdom was there, but he suffered that terrible injury during, I think it was during lockdown. So yeah, Nathan Byrne is a decent player. Matt Clark's coming again from Brighton, a solid centre-back as well. So I think they'll do, similar. I think they won't quite have the legs to get into the playoffs. Rooney's another year older, so how much impact he will have remains to be seen. But I think Koku is a decent manager. I'll back him, and that's why I'm going to give them 9th. So in 8th position, I'm going to go for Millwall. Now, Millwall were a team, they surprise everyone because they've been up around the playoffs year after year. No one expects it, in my mind, and no disrespect to Millwall fans, but I always just think of Millwall as just sort of a smaller team, but actually they're proving that they are, they're not to be messed with. They mean business, and they're there for the long haul. I think Gary Rowett is a really good manager. He obviously has got them really well drilled. They've got some good players as well. They brought in Troy Parrott from Spurs, which is massive. I think, if he hits the ground running, he could be one of the top goal scorers in the league this year. We mentioned the Derby boys, Bennett and Malone are in there, so really good, bolstering options. I think they could both be starters for them, for Millwall. Ryan Woods again in on loan from Stoke, I think is a good signing as well, really good ball player. And they haven't let too many players go. I know Aidan O'Brien has gone for Sunderland. He's an attacking option as well. Jason McCarthy's gone to Wickham, I believe. So yeah, I think I think Parrott is a massive signing. I think they've done well to bolster the squad without letting too many key players go, if any key players really. But I believe in Rowett. I believe in what they're doing, and so that's why I'm going to give them 8th. So, just missing out on the playoffs, 7th position. They managed to sneak in there last year. I don't think it's going to be quite the same story this year. It's going to be Swansea for me. I think Simon Cooper's gone in and done a really good job there. We know Swansea were in the Premier League for a number of years, so we know they're a good club, a good team. And I think, business in terms of, what they brought in, Jamal Lowe from Wigan, I think is a really good option up top. They brought in Corey Smith, as we said, from Bristol, so he offers another good option in the middle of the park. I think losing Conor Gallagher, I think he was massive for them last season, so the fact that he's not there anymore might hinder them, but Smith might be a good replacement for him. They've got in Freddie Woodman as well as an option in goal. Morgan Gibbs-White, I think he could be a really good signing. I think he could really tear the Championship apart. They've got Mark Guehi back from Chelsea. He was massive for them last year. But they have let some key players go. Burson Salina has gone. He went to Dijon, I believe, in France. Van der Horn as well at the back. He was massive for them. He's gone. I think he went to Germany, didn't he, on a free transfer. So, I believe in Cooper. I think they've done some decent business. Let a couple of key players go. The fact they haven't got Gallagher back as well may hinder them as well. So I think that's why they're just going to miss out on the playoffs. But still a really good season for Swansea. So moving into the playoffs then. In 6th position, they just missed out last year. I'm going to go with Nottingham Forest. It sort of fell apart for them at the back end of last season after a really good start. Side Lamouchi, I think is the manager. I don't know what his first name is. I'm pretty sure it's Lamouchi. He's done a really good job for them. No one really knew what was going to happen, but he's done a superb job. As I said, narrowly missed out, unfortunately. But they've brought in some decent players. I mentioned earlier Blackett from Reading. I think he's a decent player. I'm a bit disappointed that Reading let him go. Whether he can sort of do a really good job at a top end of the table team remains to be seen. But I wish him all the best. Lyle Taylor as well from Charlton, I think is a massive signing. He did really well for them for Charlton last year, so hopefully he can bag Forest a few goals as well. Jack Colback is in again from Newcastle, this time on a permanent deal. Luke Freeman as well, in from Sheffield United. He's a really good player. For Forest, the only real massive player they let go obviously is Matty Cash to Villa. Got good money for him. It was about 14 million, 15 million I believe. But if they can fill that void at right back, then I think they've got a really solid squad, and it's just about consistency for Forest. If they as long as they don't have too much of a collapse like they did last year, then hopefully for them they'll have a really good season. I back them to make the playoffs this year. So in 5th position I have got Cardiff City. Solid playoff team last year. I think they'll do the same. I like Neil Harris as a manager. I must admit I'm not the biggest Cardiff fan. Cardiff, one of the teams I less like in the football pyramid, let's say, but I can't deny they are a really good side. Like I said, I back Harris. Not too much business from them actually. They've got a solid squad. They brought in Kiefer Moore from Wigan. Obviously Wigan's clear out continues. They've got Shea Ojo as well on loan, who I think could do a really good job for them. In terms of outs, I think Etheridge going is massive. I can't remember who they have. Smithies, Cardiff. Is that their back? I guess they'll go with Smithies because I think Etheridge was their number 1 last year. But yeah, not too much other going on for that. I don't think they've lost anyone massive apart from Etheridge. So I think it will be another similar season for Cardiff. I think they will be solid, and I think they will. I don't think they'll have much to say in terms of automatic promotion, but I think it will be close. I think Cardiff, Forest, Swansea, I think it will be close, but I think Cardiff and Forest will certainly be solid and maintain that playoff push. Now we move into the top 4, and all these 4 were interchangeable. I've been moving them around constantly, trying to find a system that I think works, and I've settled on this. So you may think I'm mad, you may think I'm stupid, but this is just what I've gone with. And I think it'll be quite funny sort of at the end of the season if we have a look back at these and sort of judge how well we did. It'd be interesting to see, but these 4 teams won't be. I think these are the top 4. I just think it depends on how they finish. But in 4th place I've gone with Watford, because they've got a ridiculous squad for this level. They've barely lost any players. They've strengthened really well. I mean, they brought in Ngakia from West Ham. That's a really good signing, I think, for them. Glenn Murray, of course, has gone there. He knows the Championship like the back of his hand. 36 now. Whether he can still do it remains to be seen. A couple of players from Udinese as well. Stipe Parika as well, the striker, and the centre, Sirialta, something like that. I only know of him because I've actually used him in Football Manager this year. And he's a really good player. In terms of outs, I'm just going to have a look because surprisingly, they haven't lost that many players. Not really many of the bottom, the relegated 3 have, which I find surprising. Obviously, Watford's biggest loss is Decore going to Everton. He was massive for them, really good player. In terms of, the only player that I can see there they've lost is Holovas, but he's 36 now. He was a decent player, but how much longer can he go? But they've got a ridiculous squad for the Championship. I think the only thing that can hurt Watford is the uncertainty of the club. If they do what they did last season, if it's not going well and they have 3 managers in the season, then it's hard to see how they will, remain consistent and have the confidence to go on and maintain a serious automatic push. They'll be up there, there's no doubt about that, but I just think that is what, if they get off to a bad start and it all goes wrong and they start replacing managers, willy-nilly like they have been, then I just don't, for me, that's what's going to let them down in terms of an immediate return to the Premiership. So I'm going Watford 4th. Okay, so 3rd, missing out on automatic promotion. Again, they're probably going to receive a lot of abuse for this, but I've gone with Norwich. Now, yeah, I think, they're probably a lot of people's favourites to win the league again, and obviously they did it 2 seasons ago. Daniel Farke's still there, he's a really good manager. They played some really good football. I think that was their downfall though this year last season in the Premier League, is that they didn't really adapt. They tried playing the football that got them promoted, and in the Premier League as a small team, if you do that, you're going to get picked apart, and that's what they did. And they really struggled at the end last season. Lots of business done for them. They've really gone for it. Hugo's come in up front. I think that's massive for them. I think if he can settle down, he's obviously a really good player and a goal scorer. I think if Hugo can sort of settle in quickly, score goals, then he'll be massive for them. They brought in that young lad from Sunderland, Bali Mumba. Lots of potential. If he can get game time, he can really progress into a good player. Just having a look as well, Kieran Dowell from Everton they've brought in. Again, he's done really well. I think he's had a couple of loan spells in the Championship, but he's joined them on a permanent deal. Oliver Skipp from Spurs, needed a lot of game time, and I think Norwich is a really good place for him to go and get that as well. Ben Gibson as well, a centre back, is a massive signing for them. He's really going to shore up the defence. He, a really good Championship player, so I think from that aspect they'll do really well. In terms of outs, the biggest one is Jamal Lewis going to Newcastle. I'm amazed they've managed to keep hold of Max Aarons as well. He's a really promising player with a lot of potential. I just think the only thing that's stopping me from putting Norwich in the top 2 is, they're just how badly they did last season, whether they can recover and just, go on a serious charge for the title, and whether, to get 2nd place. I just think last season will have knocked the stuffing out of them quite a bit, to the extent where they won't quite be able to get back into the automatics. And I think they'll just miss out. I think it will be close. Like I said, between the top 4, it could be barely anything in it, but I think they will miss out, unfortunately. So the top 2 then, the automatic promotion places. There's 2 Bs left and 1 relegated team we haven't mentioned, and I'm going to put that relegated team in 2nd place. I'm going to go with Bournemouth in 2nd. Now, I know for a lot of people they're probably the least likely candidate to get promoted straight back, but I don't think too much has changed. Not too much has changed. They've lost some massive players. They haven't really brought anyone in, if anyone. It's still a month of the window to go, but Bournemouth, they were established in the Premier League for a while. I think it was quite a surprise to a lot of people that Bournemouth got relegated. Obviously Eddie Howe's gone, but Tyndall was there, and I think having Tyndall there, although he hasn't really got any proper big managerial experience, I think it will be much of the same for Bournemouth, and I think that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think the players buy into it. They just didn't, for whatever reason, didn't work out. Obviously they've lost a lot of players, as we said. Nathan Ake's gone for big money to Man City. Wilson and Fraser have gone. Aaron Ramsdale's gone as well. So that is key players in their squad. But then they do have a good squad. They've got plenty of players there. They've released a few as well. I think Jordan Ibe's been released, which I found, baffling. But he hasn't really done a lot. Still quite young. I think he could do a really good job in the Championship. Some of the older players as well, the likes of Sermon, Charlie Daniels, I think Simon Francis has been released as well. Again, key parts of that squad. So I think Bournemouth, I'm giving them 2nd on the basis that they have a strong end to the window. If they can bring in some good players, they don't lose too many more key players. I think that like I said, Tyndall being there, it will just be sort of business as usual in terms of how they play and the culture and everything. So given that they have a really good end to the window, I'm backing them to finish 2nd. So that means then I have got Brentford as my champions, and I think a lot of people are backing Brentford. It's between Norwich and Brentford, I feel that people are backing, but I'm going to go with Brentford. I think obviously they missed out narrowly last year in the playoff final, but that experience, I think they will be better from that. Obviously they're moving into a new stadium this year, which I think will be, massive for them. I know obviously fans can't go in straight away, but I think, once fans get back in, then that will certainly bolster them. Obviously their big loss, I think it's their only loss, but their big loss, Ollie Watkins, gone for big money to Aston Villa, but they've brought in Ivan Toney from Peterborough. He had a really good season at Posh last year, and I think he can slot straight in, and I think he'll score goals at this level. I think he will do really well. They haven't done too much business other than that, but I think the fact they've kept their squad together largely is massive for them, and I think they will, like I said, they will use that experience from last year to really push on. I think I back them to win the league this year. So there you go, guys. That is my championship predictions for this season. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Have I been fairly accurate? Have I been stupid? Have I got the top 4 completely wrong? You let me know down in the comments below, and let me know what you think as well is going to happen this season. But that is it from me. Pop a like on the video for me. Subscribe to the channel if you're looking forward to this sort of thing, more sort of content like this. Then do let me know. I will have Premier League predictions coming out as soon as possible. It's been a fairly frantic few days for me. I've been on holiday, not long come back, had to move in, settle in, so that's why the delay in content has been there. But there we go, guys. That is it, and I will see you in the next one.